Oh, right. I was like, what the hell? It's because we fell asleep out here. Right.
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
that was really confusing. Hi.
What was really confusing?
Well, I woke up on the island.
It appears that I'm going to need a new invite.
Okay.
But give me a second. I
No one.
forgot to restart my computer.
Oh, okay. I thought you already did it. I shall await.
I forgot.
Now I'm alone. All alone. Hi, Sean. Hi, Alex. Listen, Alex, I have terrible, terrible news. Terrible, terrible news is, since hopefully sometime in maybe about a month, you're going to be getting voice acting auditions. I'm going to expect you to audition. You don't have to, but it'd be cool if you did. I mean, you know, I guess, if you want to. Never did figure that. He probably requires a slingshot, which I'm never going to get, because I don't have a slingshot. Yep, there she goes. Alright, let's see if we can find some more walnuts, shall we? What? I can upgrade something. Are you comfortable explaining what's going on with your issues with Discord, by the way? Like, if it's just a personal thing, that's fine. You can just say it's a personal thing and we're done. It's just, you mentioned that, like, 2 months ago. And I've been like, ever since. That requires 10. God, how many more golden walnuts are on this frickin' island? I know, there's like 60. But I'm just kind of running out of places to, you know, find them. So I need 10 there, I need 5 there, and I need 20 here. Yeesh, okay. I know at least some of them are in that hellscape that is the volcano. Let's get that crap. And that crap. And that crap. Get out of my inventory. Get out of my inventory. That's confusing, but I'll let it go, Alex. See, that's the whole point. I'm not, like, trying to press. I'm just confused. I understand nothing. I'll accept that. I'll let it go. In that case, you do not have to do any voice acting for me. Lunch was good. I had some leftover chili. With a few leftover crackers. I'm afraid not, Sean. I have actually claimed this island in the name of me. Hello, Evo. Welcome to the conquest of the island. I'm your host, the Conqueror. So, if anybody wants to help me out here, there are apparently 2 walnuts buried in the north. And I don't know where they'd be. So if anybody sees like a spot that looks suspicious to dig on, yeah, feel free to pop up and be like, hey. I'm just covering some of the ones I already know, just to make sure I've gotten them all. I mean, I'm thinking about it, Bragman. I'm sincerely debating just digging up. I mean, I've got the iridium thing. I could just do this and just start digging. Be like, look. It's just, look. You're gonna give me my walnuts. Yes, so going forward, we're no longer going to be streaming games on Saturday. I know this sounds weird. I don't want to do that, but there's no other choice. In order to continue with the Streaminations, I have to discontinue a day of streaming games. And that sucks. That's it. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, okay, there's one. So there's one other one I'm missing somewhere. Yeah, time is a finite resource, and I only have so much of it. Yes, please, Russ. At this point, I kind of want to finish this game today for review purposes. I'm actually behind on my overall schedule at this point. I was supposed to have already started getting some of the off-camera work done. Thank you. So what we got here? Can I have a zoomed-in version? No, of course not. I was right. I was right. It requires a frickin' slingshot. I mean, that's not going to happen, Dark Day, but that's okay. Okay, how do I get access to a slingshot? Dude, if I didn't need to sleep, I could have gotten so much work done in the last 40 years. Oh, that was me getting kicked out. Thanks, Discord. Thanks. Yeah, I think we're going to have to hit the Adventurers Guild. I think you're right. Okay, hang on. So that requires that. That requires that. That requires that? I don't even have that on. I mean, if you think about it, sleep is extraordinarily inefficient. So, I don't mean to sound weird, but what's the point of all the bone fragments? I figured he would take them. But he obviously doesn't. What else have we got? And I cannot... This is such a tiny graphic. Okay, fine. Okay, so apparently we've gotten that one. That's done. I'm sorry, Europe. I mean, it's been pretty good. I did ding the game for late game because I do actually think that late game is not a good... is not well designed in this game. But the island has been pretty legit. I'm ready to report. There are 22. Thank you. Purple starfish. I'm ready to report. There's 18. Hi, again.
Okay.
Maybe. Oh, there you are.
Invite, please.
I will. By the way, hi, the Eternal Crusader. And hello, Seth the Roadwalker. Sorry for the lack of respondinating. Invite. It's okay. Once I invent the Enertron, I'll be able to work 20-hour days. Well, yeah, so, if I was to put this into review terms, which, you know, I'm going to do, I would say that the late game itself is satisfying, except for the FF7 syndrome. But it is ironically available way too late. By the time you gain access to the late game content, it kind of becomes meaningless. The island really should be available, honestly, probably year 2 is when I would shuffle it. So, year 2 hits, Willie's like, hey, I got this boat. Bring me some resources and we'll fix it. Probably remove iridium from the list. Right, it's winter. And I think that would solve a lot of my issues with it. In fact, that would probably solve all of my issues with it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be at a superhero birthday party. You've seen what Stark is like when he gets drunk. So I guess we could just toss these bone fragments because they're worthless.
They're crafting material.
Well, they're gone. Destroyed by the Empire. And yeah, ironically, Stardew Valley's original late game sucked. And I don't say that to be mean, I say that to be, demonstrative. The original late game was pretty crap. It makes sense given the production cycle this game went through. He spent so much time just getting the game into the state he found acceptable. It makes perfect sense that he would have just kind of shoved late game to the corner. It's probably why he pushed so hard for a 1.5 patch to begin with. Because he himself was not satisfied with late game. That's true, we could have the Hulk getting drunk at the party. That'd be awful. Or worse, Banner getting drunk at the party. Are you in game yet?
No, because it crashed.
Oh, okay. I was confused. Oh god, don't remind me of the fact that the Hulk can... Too many people can regenerate in that setting. That's another thing we need to axe. Boom! And regeneration's gone. There we go. Whew. We Thanos'd it out. I don't know, I like hanging out with my sister when she's drunk.
You've never hung out with me when I've been drunk, just very, very tipsy.
Okay, fine. My sister's fun to hang out with when she's tipsy.
I'm not sure how the human message system works, so I asked Wizard to help me write this letter. I hope you are doing okay. I wanted to share this with you. It notes on how my people build a certain item. Dark sign.
Aw. Thanks, Probus.
I can now make tea saplings.
Cool. I never got that recipe through what I can only assume is a bug.
Did you ever get the cutscene in her tea room?
No, I didn't. That'd be why then.
Bye.
Okay. So we need to get a banana.
Why are you shivering in your bed?
I don't know, but I've decided to get out of bed. I'm too cold. Which is not a thing. If you ever hear me say that, you know I'm an alien.
You're shivering at the fridge, too.
Shiver, 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 shiver. I mean, that makes sense. I'm at the fridge, right? Banana! There we go.
You're shivering at the other fridge.
Sis, I'm so cold.
You're shivering
so
standing next to me. Like
cold.
your sprite is literally just every time you stop moving, it's just like shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it.
That's
shake it.
really weird. Whatever. Let me go shiver next to my wife. Yeah, Logan... So, Logan's a great film. It has a couple of logical flaws and is extremely depressing. But, is a very, very well-constructed film, which I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. But I do agree, it's really messed up what it's like to have someone who has had a regeneration state and it's just kind of going away.
Wait. He can't heal anymore?
No, it's not binary. It's fading, which is worse. Like, his regeneration can't quite keep up with certain things, or it takes longer, or it's much more painful. All the while, he's being poisoned by his adamantium. So, he's kind of constantly regenerating against that. Oh, God, no. You walk into my apartment with a shoe on, I'm going to yell at you, Yura. You take those shoes off at the door. There's a frickin' mat for it and everything. It drives me bonkers when people do that. Bless you. I did, Zach Taft. So you asked me, Captain Rogers said, I bet you believe it's the Avengers used to throw a birthday party. Wait, what? I bet you believe the Avengers used to throw birthday parties for their teammates before they got so busy. Why would they stop? I mean, it doesn't have to be a big shindig. It should just be a little private thing. Maybe they stopped being friends. Maybe they drifted apart, bit by bit. But yeah, seriously, no shoes in the house. Unless you're Bragwin. Bragwin, you can wear shoes. Not in here, though. No, I'm the weirdo. My mother-in-law can... Or not, sorry. My stepmother can attest to this. Because she and I both have this thing. We like to walk around barefoot, but of course we also don't like anything to be on our feet while walking around barefoot. So any errant debris, or, you know, dirt or filth or whatever, nah, screw that. Vacuum, sweep.
Reversed.
Hi, again. You've been making fun of me, quietly. I don't do house shoes. If you want to do slippers, that's fine. Now, to completely switch this, my sister loves going outdoors barefoot. I can't stand that. That drives me bonkers.
I can't, like, it bothers me when there's dirt on the floor, like, in the house, but I can walk around barefoot outside all day, all the time.
Yeah, like this one time, this is just this year, this one time my sister was out in her yard, and I actually walked out to talk with her. Barefoot. She even noticed. She commented on it.
His house doesn't open until 8:30.
Like, I'm barefoot right now, for example. Hi, Zalok. Hey, Zalok, do you mind a technical question? You can say no. It's cool. It's not a priority. Now, I also wear Crocs. Go ahead. It's okay. I accept it. So I assumed this was bananas a while ago. I just kept forgetting to follow through on it. I already did this. Okay. That's very strange. So how hard would it be to make it so that the bot, just Question Man, is able to pull the list from the upcoming page and then spit it out in a readable format in chat? Where on the line of feasibility is that? What are you doing, sis?
Cheating my already very tall energy bar higher.
You tried to get it to go off the screen?
Scrolled over something. Yes, it is actually off the screen.
Oh my goodness.
It has been actually off the screen for a hot minute now.
Alright, yeah, I got that one. Got that one. So we've actually gotten all of the east walnuts. Yay! Well, we got the gold cocoa. So, hey, sis. You want to come fishing on the island?
Sure.
There are 5 walnuts we can get from fishing. I don't think I've gotten any of them. You can just fish anywhere. It's pure random chance.
Okay.
Harvesting crops will yield walnuts. That's interesting.
You've gotten one.
Oh, we have? Okay.
Yeah, because you were fishing and you got a walnut.
That's what I figured, Zillow. No, that's right. You're right. I remember now. Well, I guess I should grow more crops out here. Which, ironically, I was planning to do anyways. No, I get you, Zillow. I get you. Maybe limited at that point, because the queue's pretty big. So maybe just pull... Hey, snake skull! Maybe just pull, like, the top 10 in the list. Ooh, where'd you get it?
The beach.
Where?
Literally on the dock.
Okay. Alright, so harvesting... there's a frog, which we haven't met yet.
A lionfish. An iridium lionfish.
Ooh.
And a broken CD. You have a question.
Yes, Zilog. The idea is for people who either don't have time or interest or availability of checking the website for the upcoming. Yeah, Melon's the first one. I mean, I have a guide there, but you're right, I could have picked that up too. I was just about to do this thing, because, you know... Thank you. Okay, wow, that's gonna be 15 walnuts when we get there. I admit, some of these I would not have gotten.
Tuna.
What? Oh, wrong thing. No, I forgot to get the slingshot because I'm stupid. I might have already gotten this one because that's the spot and there's nothing popped out. So I'm going to assume I got that one already. We can get ones from these, but I don't know how to keep track of how many we've gotten from them. So that's random and there's 5. We got the one inside the ship. We got the whack-a-mole. Missed that one.
Only a certain number of them.
Yeah, there's 5 total from fishing, 5 from mining, etc.
Do they only spawn in specific places?
Nope. It's just a random trigger. And once you've gotten 5, you've gotten all of them. That's why I kind of wish I could keep track of how many I've gotten in some of these. Missed that one, too. I already got the X. I didn't get this one, though. There's the X. There's another one down here. Oh, there it is. Wow! I did not see this one at all. Check it out. Do you see this? Right there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't see that one at all. I've got a list if it's not obvious. Let's see. Pretty sure I got that one. Do you ever watch shows from the middle of a season? So that used to happen back in the days of, television networking. Not on purpose, though. That happened to me for a lot of shows back in the day. We did the Pirate's Wife quest. Well, I did the Pirate's Wife quest. I would not do it deliberately, no. And medias res is its own thing, but deliberately enforcing it is not my thing. What's this? I must have already gotten this one. This should be, like, right here. Oh, yeah, it's right here. We already got it. Okay. Pretty sure we got this one. Did not get this one. Now, I know you would, Evo, because of the insanity, but I'm curious why, other than the insanity. Okay, so we got the one walnut from... You already got the walnut from the slimes, right? Says...
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. Those are apparently tiger slimes. I thought they were lava slimes. Okay. Pretty sure we got that one. Yep.
All the trees.
I could hear. Alright, so that's no... Did I already do this? Oh, I did not. How good are you at Simon Says, sis?
Decent. Why?
Because I should make you do this instead of me. See if I fail it here. I've already failed it. Here, do me a favor. Come. Where are you at?
Farm.
Are you making chests on the farm?
Am I what?
Making chests on the farm.
No.
I swear I heard a... Anyways, where are you at? I don't see you. This?
In bed, because it's midnight.
Oh, that's valid. Okay. I'll go to my other bedroom over here. I made 250 gold. Woo! And it's just always raining here. Alright, so. Follow me, please. In here. You got this.
Alright, what am I supposed to do?
Talk to the statue. That'll activate the puzzle. And then it's Simon Says. Not that one. Pretty sure I got that one. See you around, Alex. Feel better. I know I got that one. Pretty sure I got this one. Yep. So we've almost got all the ones here, too.
True. Shit. What do I have to do?
Hmm. Make him 40. You go.
I did it!
Congrats.
3.
Nice.
And now he's lit up.
Yay.
Alright, now what?
The problem is, so we've got that, which requires a melon seed, a wheat seed, and a garlic seed, which I don't think we have access to yet. That requires fishing. I don't know where we're at with fishing, and that requires mining. I don't know where we're at with mining. I don't have a way of checking. Make sure I got that one. So you can just come north with me and help me. So you can look.
I could go get my galaxy sword.
Yeah, you know what? Go get your galaxy sword. I like that idea. Do that. And see if there's a traveling vendor while you're out there. Or see if she sells any seeds.
She sells seeds by the seashore?
Yes. Russ has a good idea. We could see if we have any melon, wheat, and garlic and throw them in the seed maker.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Russ. So after you get your sword, do me a favor and do that, please. Okay, so... got that one. Pretty sure we got this one. I'm almost positive we got this one. Yeah, okay.
Hi, Bree.
No, I got that one, yep. And then there's complete a bunch of things. That's going to be a separate thing.
Hi, Bree.
Bree says, listen, I'm a person, and I'm right here, and you can't ignore me anymore.
There is a merchant.
Do they sell melons, or wheat, or garlic?
I don't know.
Hello, Mr. Red.
They sell a butterfly hutch, a magic turban,
Sounds like a bunch of no.
and an artifact trove.
Whoa. Alright, there's the slingshot one. Could you buy a slingshot while you're out there too, please, sis? It'll be at the Adventurers Guild.
All right, she sells cactus, rhubarb, starfruit, beet, and that's it.
Okay. That's okay.
Where do I get my galaxy sword when we're not cheating?
You have a prismatic shard on you?
Yes.
Carry it, like have it over your head, and then walk in between the 3 things in the northeast corner of the desert.
Northeast corner, got it.
17 walnuts are inside the volcano. Pretty sure we already got those walnuts. Yay! Z found the galaxy sword. Congrats, Mr. Red. May it bring you joy. Because if it doesn't... Yeah, I already got those 2. Thought so. So we've got the puzzle, the excavation, the volcano. Whoops, this is not where I want to be. Visual storytelling for the barbarian. If you feel like having him armored, that would actually work out well, I think. Yeah, Thanos mind control out of existence, Active. Oh, there we go. I know I kept that Infinity Gauntlet around for some reason.
Right. I'm hunting garlic.
Garlic, melon, and wheat. I know we have all 3 in the fridges. Okay, apparently we can't do any of these things until we build the beach resort, which I'm guessing is what this is. Look at that in a bit. In that case, that's kind of it for the moment. So, oh, what do we need for this stupid thing? Plate would work, Evo. It would also probably be less frustrating to draw than, you know, scale or chain. So for managerial reasons, I think I'll go with plate. Okay, so we need artifact spots in the west, panning, fishing. Oh geez, we need a lot of stuff. Okay. I take it you still have not put in your 2 weeks, Mr. Red?
You need to, like, organize your fridges.
They're not very organized, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I know. I can't find anything.
They're very cis.
All right. Melon?
Yes. Wheat, garlic.
What does garlic look like? That looks like a garlic. You need seeds?
Yeah, so just toss them in the seed maker. It's over by the greenhouse. I don't have the panning tool. Note to self, get the panning tool back at some point. It's one of the things we need right there, and I just don't have the panning tool. Oh, whatever, we'll do it this way.
I have 2 panning tools on me for some reason.
Well, you probably have mine, then. For some reason.
Do we have a snake skull in the museum?
We do. We need snake legs, or... not part of the snake that's not the head. Snake vertebrae is actually what it's called. Whoops. Interesting. If it makes you feel any better, setting up a switch doesn't take super long, Mr. Red. Although you might have issues with the... Hey, walnut. That's at least 2 fishing walnuts. With the wireless side of things. 3.
Because you've got... I got 1 on the beach. You got 1 by the farm, and plus the one you just got.
You're right. So we can get 2 more fishing walnuts.
Have you tried fishing in the lava on top of the mountain?
No, I haven't. And there's 4 fishing walnuts now. I need to empty out my inventory at some point. So I know it's late, game. It's super okay, Evo. Look at the D3 Barbarian, and look at the contrast between the two. I prefer the D3 Barbarian's look anyways. Especially since, in lore, the Barbarian is supposed to be, shall we say, more wise than most of his contemporaries. Most of the Barbarians in Act 5 will be enemies for the party. The Barbarian, the party member, will actually be sent out to be like, hey, I'm here to stop you. And, you know, the party will essentially convince him to join them. So, that's the part. Hey, I can hear the rain again. Raining on my head like a new emotion. Also, Mr. Red, I'm going to give you one other little piece of advice. Get a little bit of a stretch exercise going. Something aerobic, something to get you moving. Dynamic stretches, in other words. And do that when you get home. It's really good for a burst of energy and for helping you to wake up a little bit. I stretch pretty much right before I start stream every day, for example. I used to stretch in between streams, but, you know, whatever. Okay. A lot of crap. I want to get rid of all of it. None of this should be in my inventory. So you muted again?
No.
So, do you want to set up the resort next, or the stuff I don't know what it does?
The resort.
Okay. I mean, you remember what that was like, Savicom. going back to having a regular 9 to 5 after having not had one for a while. That's just a shift, you know? Hello. Probably not, Evo. Most characters who are enemies that they'll actually be fighting are characters who have lines of dialogue. It's snowing. Yeah, that's another thing. I remember the very first time I ever worked a full shift at Arby's, when I first started that job. When I got home, I couldn't walk. I actually had to ask my friends to bring dinner to my room because I could not walk. It was too painful. I invested in new shoes very quickly.
Hi, Clint.
I also learned pretty quickly... What? Sis!
What?
You know what?
What?
You... Seriously?
What?
I'm gonna take a screenshot of this so you know what you did.
Two!
Hang on. Taking a screenshot. I'll even circle it so it's really obvious.
Oh! Doesn't it look nice?
So here's the problem, sis.
Ow.
My
Ow.
inventory is full. So I can't reach the chests to empty my inventory. And I can't get that out of here. So I'm gonna get rid of that. This extra rock candy that you gave me.
You should have eaten it. What
There we
does
go.
the resort do?
I have no idea.
The beach resort is open tomorrow.
Don't close it, because I want to see what it does.
It doesn't do anything.
That's because I just opened it. Yeah, that coughing is what you get for blocking the way. Single best game you can play on the Switch. Mario Odyssey. Now, I haven't reviewed a lot of games yet on the Switch, and in fact, that's part of the audit run, but it's Mario Odyssey. Let's just be real about that. Everyone in chat. What about... No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Deltarune. I mean, Deltarune's not out yet. So, quickly. Ironically, I wasn't all that sweet on Breath of the Wild. Oh, don't mistake me, it's a good game. But as far as Zeldas go, I'm not even sure I'd put it in the top half. I don't know, I'd have to think about that. When we do the Zelda block, at which point we will actually line it up.
Pickaxe.
Did you already get the seeds, by the way, sis?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have them on me. That's why I'm on the island.
Did you get a slingshot?
No, I forgot that.
I'll get a slingshot then. Yeah, if you're into Pokemon, I've heard really good things about Arceus. I haven't played it. My sister has.
It's good.
There you go. I also haven't played Violet yet. Now, I know Sis hasn't played that because they don't own a copy of it yet. I do. God damn it.
Shrooms.
I would like to buy just a slingshot. Just a slingshot.
So where are the rest of the walnuts?
So we need to do the growing thing. We need to do the digging thing to get the pieces of the fossils. And the rest are going to be in the volcano or as a part of the resort.
Well, the resort doesn't do anything.
Yet. It doesn't do anything yet.
I forgot how to get to the farm.
Left. Ironically. Yeah, I've heard actually really good stuff about Violet and Scarlet. There's also Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which the only reason I'm not suggesting it right now is I've only played the first 2 worlds with my niece. But I can vouch for that on that premise. It is a very fun, very good co-op game. Not the best co-op game out there. There's better. But it's still pretty fun. Yes, Zactap, that is absolutely correct. As in, acceptable, correct. I did do a little bit of behind the scenes on Violet, and it looks like they were very screwed over by business decisions by people who have no business making those decisions. As usual. It would actually take me a while to go into more detail, but there's just... Really, guys? Where did you put the lumber that you got, sis?
What lumber?
You chopped down all the trees on the island.
I sold it.
But we could have had a chest! I was... May I have my...
wood at home?
But... I didn't bring wood because I thought you had wood here. Sis, do you have my panning thing? My pot of gold thing.
There you go.
Thank you. Build-A-Bear sent you an email asking for a review because your feedback was very important to them. Alright. No, turned around. Now what the hell am I doing?
Baby slime's so much harder to kill than an adult slime.
That's a good question.
I have 2 chests on me.
Yay.
I had enough lumber to make 2 chests.
Did you already plant the seeds?
No?
Good. Because they actually need to be planted in a specific order. I'm going to get the slingshot thing really quick while you do chesting things. I'm glad you've been having fun, Pika. Why is there no sound up here?
What order do they need to be planted in?
Melon is first. Yeah, let me verify here. So hang on. Okay, so. Okay, apparently it doesn't matter when you plant them. What matters is when you harvest them. So just go ahead and plant all 3. So my bad. And then Russ says that in chat right a minute later, but whatever. Okay, got that one. Now to delete the slingshot and never use it again. I mean, that is pretty fun, Pillars of Snow. And confirm. You should be up here. You should be over here. You shouldn't be on here at all. That goes to Gunther. That goes to Gunther. That goes to Gunther. This is trash. This is trash. I'm keeping that stuff just in case. There it is. Thanks, game. See you around, Subcom. Keep getting this midnight carp. Oh, got a spine. I should probably go to bed. It's so quiet. I'm gonna start playing my music if the music doesn't start playing again. What music, Eva? I don't hear any.
No.
I can't even hear my sis. Oh, there she is.
That's because I was muted. I had a phone call.
Okay. Sorry. I was just like, the game was going silent. My sister was going silent.
You're like, can I still hear things? Have I gone deaf?
I mean,
Mysteriously and suddenly?
you surprised me at this point. Okay, we got music again. Oh, nowhere near as long with Paramount. This isn't even going to be 2 weeks. Dude. Chests? No chests.
Chest.
Where did you put it? Well, anyways, I'm gonna water these crops.
There you go. You have 2 chests.
Where?
Play hide and seek.
Oh my god.
One of them is pretty easy.
And the other one I will never find, ever. I should just start throwing stuff away. I'm gonna do that. This. Don't need iron at this point. Tempted to toss the iridium ore. Definitely get rid of that.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna go check out the resort to see what's going on over there now that it's been a day.
Still nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you can lounge. There should be a new area we have access to as a... Oh, what's this over here? Ha! New area! With chests! Yeah, I wonder what this suspicious star shape is. Wow, that was quick. Okay. We still need one fishing walnut in general.
Does that one not count as a fishing walnut?
No, it came from the pool here. On rainy days, which it's not raining, on non-rainy days after 8, go to the Pirate Cove. Where's the pirate? Is this the Pirate Cove? No, this is the Pirate Cove. How do we get over there? Maybe? Hang on. What is a Pirate Cove? Oh, there it is. I see it. Yar, me mateys? There's nobody here. What's a flute block?
It's a thing you can craft.
Okay. We'll come back to that, I suppose.
You can craft it.
No, I believe you. It's just, we'll come back to that. It's not raining anyways.
You can fish in here.
But can you get a walnut?
I don't know.
The answer is yes.
So fish.
I will, as soon as I find this spot. I'm apparently too blind to see. What is this? God, it's so dark in here. There it is. I see it. And by that I mean, I looked it up. That? Okay, I didn't guess that this was a patch of dirt. There we go. Okay. Fishing time.
Gosh, there's people here now.
Oh, cool. Can you play darts with them?
I don't know yet.
Oh, you're not... Never mind, never mind.
Fishing.
I got a gourmand statue. I have no idea what that is.
Flounder.
Ooh.
Let's see, who all is here? Maru is here. You're welcome, Maru. Elliot is here. Alex is here. I don't know how to play darts with them.
No, you can't. You can't. I was reading it wrong. You can only play darts with the pirates in the rain. After 8. A lot of requirements. Hi everyone, have an ugly statue. Boom. Gasp, it's a solar eclipse. No, never mind, it's just your body blocking the sun. I think Maro just called me fat, sis.
I see. Well, what are you going to do about that?
Well, I do have a sword. It's a really good sword, too. Not all of them, no. And yes, we've already given negatives for that.
Given negatives for what?
Info in game is what I call that. Or, in this case, lack thereof. I don't know, and I don't know how many mining walnuts that is, but I know that's at least 2.
I got a mining walnut.
So that's 3 then. At least 3. We still haven't gotten the 5th fishing walnut. Or we have, and my count is off. Artifact spot, artifact spot. Golden coconut. Artifact spot. Canning. And artifact spot. What do you want? 10 walnuts. Jeez. Okay, we'll come back to that. Anyways, I don't think there's any new events, Evo, unless you count whatever's going on at the resort, which I'm not sure what's up with that. It could just be them hanging out being like, hi. Apparently they're just hanging, which is fine. I just wasn't sure. I apparently can't reach that over there. That sucks. I think Sis is the lore jogger.
I don't jog.
Apparently Sis is no longer the lore jogger. She's already advocated the title. I guess that would make my niece the lore jogger. Did you ever end up planting those seeds, Sis?
Yes.
Excellent.
I don't sprint either. Don't care, Evo.
She is religiously opposed to jogging. Sure. Oh, that's just a delivery service. Okay, yeah. I guess I'll fish with my last 2 minutes here.
After this day, I'm gonna hop off.
For the day?
Yes.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been my sister in Stardew. I hope you've enjoyed and appreciated her. And if you don't, that's okay. I'll just hunt you down and kill you. But,
If by powerlifting you mean I have 3 children, 2 of whom regularly need to be carried, then yes.
gosh darn it, come on. There we go. And for the record, on record, sis, it's been really fun having you. Thank you for playing with me.
Welcome. It's been fun playing with you too.
Now imagine if she said, God, playing with you has just been such a chore. Ugh. Every day it's more Stardew and hanging out with my brother. God. The volcano holds many secrets. I've seen little men with glowing eyes skittering in the dark like cats in the night. Could those be the fabled dwarf men mentioned by M. Jasper in his famous journeys? Strange machines, too. Uncanny, not like anything known to man. At the top, I found a passage to the caldera in the volcano and half submerged in the bubbling lava. A peculiar machine, a kind of forge. I'll investigate more tomorrow. Dun, dun, dun. Could you do me a favor and empty your bag before you quit out, please?
Empty my bag?
I mean, we're never playing again, right?
You're gonna finish it today?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're pretty close to done right now.
Okay.
Like, this honestly probably won't take more than a couple more hours to beat the game.
I will go find an empty chest and stick stuff places.
No, what she means is she's going to find some random chests and stick stuff in completely random places. I'm going to spend 20 minutes of that 2 hours I just mentioned running around trying to figure out where everything is. Bless you. And thank you for joining me, for real.
Thank you, Evo.
It has been fun.
It has.
Leave. Thingy, as the saying goes.
Thingy. Okay, go fetch a baby. Mini Z.
And off she goes. Okay. Let's wrap this up, shall we? We've got a pretty definitive wish list right now of things to do. We're going to dump some stuff off of Gunther's. Then we're going to dump some stuff off in the spot and check the ancient seed thing, even though it's irrelevant at this point. But I'm still going to do it because I kind of want to play this off camera. Yes, tomorrow will be the beginning of the long dark, which is funny because then we'll be streaming Saturday. But tomorrow is, one way or the other, the beginning of the long dark. Ojunix is the beginning of the long dark. That's a lot of weird stuff, none of which I'm going to pick up. Thank you, Ojunix. I know exactly what you mean, speaking as a long-standing holder of the Working While Sick Club. Give me a second here, Ojunix. There you go. Cowboy Shark Hugs. That's gonna have to do because this is more awkward than it looks like. There you go. Whoop, 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 whoop. And she's already falling over. There we go. Okay. Worst sickness or disease I've ever had? I once had a kidney stone that had to be surgically removed that was several millimeters wide. Does that count? that does not count, that's acceptable. Because that's not really a disease. Sure sucked, though. Almost died from it, actually. That's not a joke. I can say that flippantly now. Because, you know, I'm here. You know, one of my favorite things I used to get, because I was already doing the YouTube channel by then, I used to get people complaining about how much I would moan and groan while streaming or while doing a video. You got this, Ojunix. Peek in here really quick. That's what I thought. And it shouldn't be until the 8th for the other thing. I have a really high pain tolerance, Dark Day. It's not really a brag. One of my aunts, who has given birth, has described... has given me the anecdote that she has also had a kidney stone, which is not as large as mine, and she preferred giving birth over the kidney stone. At one point in time, the whole story of what happened came out when I was visiting in Vegas. This is actually just a few years ago, about 5 years ago now. And my aunt, the one I just mentioned in question, paused for a second, and then just pulled me into this really, really tight hug, like, oh my god, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. But yeah, my kidney was in danger of actually being, I guess the word the nurse used was shredded. It was basically just the kind of thing that was going to happen at some point and just hadn't happened yet. And the way she described what that would happen would be that I would be dead before I got to the hospital. Like, it would be such a rapid pace thing, there would be no recovery from it. That didn't happen, obviously. It did mean I got in for surgery really quickly, though. Go figure, I suppose. Oh, there's the wheat. Okay. Dump all the bone stuff in there. And the lumber. Okay, so we're waiting on that to grow. Oh, I should water that to make sure that that grows. Oh, it was a hell of a hospital bill. Paid it off. Pretty much entirely from my income. The way it worked out is, well, obviously I helped out with bills. Most of the money that I was making via streaming was going directly towards the hospital bills. And I was pretty upfront about that, too. I was like, alright, listen. This is how much money is owed. And I'm just kind of slogging through this. I also turned over my entire 401k into it as well, just to kind of nuke it and get rid of it. It was a large chunk of change. Okay, so we need artifact spots, and mining and fishing. I mean, it was Subicom. Although at that exact point in time, I wasn't even thinking about the big bill yet. I was trying to get the little bills squared away. You know, anesthesiology, X-ray, the individual departments. You know how it is, right? You don't get one bill when you go to the hospital. You get like 15. So that's 4, I believe, walnuts from digging. So I was squaring away all the bills except for the hospital bill, which was the big one. The hospital bill was large. Really, really large. Oh, hey, I found one of the chests. Thanks, sis. Okay. So there's nothing over here. Oh, hey, it's Jody. Oh, and Kent is here too. Damn. I mean, that's a good thing. No, it's fine. I think everybody is kind of aware of the nature of the medical industry and the related insurance industry here in the States. It's not great. That's not polemic. That's like saying... That's like saying that the Earth is round is polemic. The reason I sighed was because I realized that people have started making everything polemic. Sometime about 600 or 700 years ago. That's really frustrating. We got a diamond! Great! Can I get the thing I actually want? You don't want a diamond? Not really. I have infinite diamonds. You what? Yeah, they don't call me Don Lore for nothing. I guess Don Runner. Yeah, polemic is situational. That's exactly right. I've actually given that speech several times. What is polemic depends entirely on when, where, and whom. On both sides, too. There are some places I still can't say things that are polemic, depending. And I tend to pay attention to those things and just kind of keep my mouth shut. It's pretty easy to do. I have a lot of experience with it. Okay, well, That's okay. They both like very different books, so they'll be able to yell at each other the entire time, Zartaft. Blade doesn't like books at all. Wolverine pretends he doesn't like books, but secretly he does. You know how it is. Oh no, you're fine, Dark Day. Generally speaking, I'll do one of two things if someone drifts into dangerous territory on stream. I'll ignore them completely unless it gets out of hand, or I will politely say, hey, let's bring it back a little bit. If someone dives right into it, well, then they'd probably just get silenced. Yeah, I see it. Thanks, sis. Well, there's a snake skull, which we already have. Seriously, almost everything we're missing looks like we need artifact spots for, aka worms. And a golden coconut, which... I haven't seen any golden coconuts in a while. Debate. Part of the problem, too, is that there's 17 golden coconuts in the volcano, which I'm very deliberately avoiding. Hey! Oh my god, Savacom. No! Any song but that. Okay, fine. I'll take coconuts over Baby Shark. Okay, fine. I'll take Baby Shark over Finny Fun. Hi, Larian. So, I forget which day it was, but someday, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I go over to hang out with the family, as I always do. While I was there, my beloved niece had an item that was playing a song on repeat endlessly. And that song was Baby Shark. Just on endless loop. So I was running around doing other stuff, and everyone else was just kind of running around like, "Arr." You know how it is. And at a certain point I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Went over, found the item, turned off the song. Okay. We're done. It's... Okay, let's see if we can find some spots. Oh god, Peppa Pig. Yep. Oh right, I was gonna... I think it's too late now to do the speed grow. Whatever. Raining yet too, so we can't do that either. I'm in a weird spot. I need to finish the skeleton thing. I need the crops to grow. I need it to rain. And then there's the volcano, and that's kind of it. I already did the banana. With the gorilla shrine. I mean, I like a lot of Mario Odyssey's music, so I can't blame her on that. Oh yeah, sorry. So, Zolok, I'm a moron. I never saw your answer to my question. Range of feasibility for pulling the list. Okay. Also, if there's something we can do to change the formatting on the website to make it easier to pull, that's obviously doable as well. Oh, we already have one of those. Hey. Like I said, no rush, no priority, no urgency, no nothing. A trading hut. Hello, Alex. Welcome back. How's the feelings going? I'm sorry. I would suggest a hot shower, but I probably shouldn't do that, because that can actually make things worse. I remember one time I was particularly sick, doesn't matter what from, and I was just like, oh man, this sucks, but it's okay, I'll just take a hot shower. And it made me really dizzy. Like, much, much dizzier than I already was. That sucked. Like, I had trouble reaching my bed after that. I was just like, whoa. Aw, thanks, Jody. And there we go. Now, it's not always true. Sometimes a hot shower is exactly what I need. It's just, that's life, right? Sometimes something that helps can hurt, and vice versa. Ah. Well, let's play RNG bingo, shall we? So we had one dud last time. Dramatic pause. Actually, hang on a sec. We're getting to the point where I probably should have more seed makers. I might not have the resources for it, ironically. Okay, two successes. Four successes. Six. Eight. Doing good. Ten. Have all these done before I actually have the new feed makers ready, because I don't have any lumber, because I left all the lumber on the island. It'll be very blind, because I've never worked on the Dabble rewrite before. Dark Day. Super blind, one might even say. It's a good game, Mr. Red. Although some would posit that Breath of the Wild is better. And they're wrong! I mean, they're entitled to their opinion. Interestingly enough, since I have not reviewed Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey, I'm not actually sure how the two would line up against each other. But I'd probably give that to Mario Odyssey. And you're probably thinking, but why, Lore? I've played through Mario Odyssey twice. Once for the stream, and once with my niece. I am looking forward to my third playthrough. By contrast, I have no opinion on playing Breath of the Wild again. Good, bad, or in between. Oh man, a Mario Odyssey 2? And you know what? I'd be willing to wait on that. Just take your time, polish it. That's Nintendo's thing, right? Polish that sucker to a sheen. I will wait for it. There we go. We have finally gotten additional seed makers. Have I played Super Mario Sunshine? I'm not sure how to take that question, but I'm just going to answer straight. Yes, I have played every Mario game. Yeah, no duds. Exactly, Dark Day. We know exactly what happens to a Mario game when it's not polished. It becomes Sunshine. We talked about that when we were reviewing Mario Sunshine last year. That game was rushed, and it shows. It's a damn shame, too, because... And I said this then, and I mean it. That game has the bones of an excellent game in it. I personally don't think it lands it, but still, it could have been fantastic. And instead, it was Mario Sunshine. Just gonna hold on to it. Yeah, exactly, Alex. There was several issues that are all kind of colliding with each other, Dark Day. Part of it was because Sunshine was originally designed to be a 64 game, so that's already a problem. Part of it was the fact that they really were having issues at that point financially because the PlayStation was beating the snot out of them. And so an idiot, who is an idiot, I will never stop spitting venom at this gentleman. He was the president of Nintendo at the time. He insisted, as one of his last things, that they do Mario Sunshine and that they kind of shove it forward instead of actually polishing it. Because they were running behind on the GameCube. You remember the GameCube didn't launch with Sunshine. The GameCube launched with Luigi's Mansion. Now don't mistake me. Luigi's Mansion's a good game. I recommend playing it if you haven't. But it wasn't much of a console mover. So several people were basically frenetically saying, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And idiot was just... I swear he was actively sabotaging. I have no proof of that, other than the actions he took and the commands he gave. Right as he was leaving the company, too. But his final few commands absolutely just chopped the GameCube off at the knees universally. Really frustrating. Yeah, everything that was going on with Capcom at the time, too, was just... What? Anyways, I'm getting off topic. The point is, that poor game had lots of production issues. Probably the most troublesome Mario game ever. Possibly Pigmeat Frank. I mean, he was a very vindictive and spiteful person. That's not hyperbole. You can read up on him. He was a jackass. So it's entirely possible that he legitimately wanted the next guy to just have the hardest time dealing with everything. Because he just made bad decisions. This is the guy who decided to go with Philips instead of Sony. And if you don't know what that means, that is such a huge sea change that it literally forever changed the entire landscape of video gaming. That's not hyperbole. That one decision just fundamentally changed video gaming, and we're still to this day feeling the effects of that. Did it at the last minute, too. There is a Nintendo PlayStation. They had already built the console. They had already designed and constructed the thing, and it was playable. God. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm getting off topic. Yeah, it even works with released games. It's just... It was ready for showcasing. Not ready for release, but ready for showcasing. No, we're going with Phillips and said, what is wrong with you? Now, whether that was a better decision or a worse decision, that's more a matter of opinion. But, yeah, I'm of the opinion that... So Nintendo has never really stopped being Nintendo. They've always kind of had their own little corner of the market. But Nintendo was the console for a very long time, for almost 2 decades. And I think if they had retained the Nintendo PlayStation, they would have held that title for a very long time. But no. Anyways, point being, sorry, this is all just a rant off of Mario Sunshine. The point being, Mario Sunshine is one of those games that I do think to be a very flawed game. It did not score very well when we reviewed it, and I stand by that. But it's definitely one of those, it's understandable why it reviewed so badly games. We can see all the reasons for why that sucker just kind of... What's funny is that the development of Mario Sunshine led almost directly... Exactly, Alex. Led almost directly to the creation of Mario Galaxy, which, consequently, is a great game, and financially knocked it out of the park. So shrug, I suppose. Yeah, the Wii was also a financial juggernaut. For various reasons. You know, I'm not actually sure, Dark Day. I'd have to look it up. And if I Alt-Tab, I'll pause the game. So if anybody wants to look up best-selling Wii games, because I'm pretty sure, technically, Wii Sports, or whatever was bundled with the Wii, is the best-selling Wii game. But that's got a huge asterisk next to it. That doesn't count, as far as I'm concerned. Why not? Oh, right. Honestly, I'm a little surprised Galaxy is that low. Yeah, Wii Sports doesn't count. Mario Kart Wii, that makes sense. Mario Kart Wii sold bonkers good. In fact, it was the first Wii game I bought. Wii Sports Resort, again, understandable, given the audience. New Super Mario Bros. Wii? Now that's surprising. I would not think that one would be that high on the list. I should mention, I'm one of the people who actually likes that game. I know there's a lot of backlash against it, but I found it to be enjoyable, if not amazing. But still, quite enjoyable game. We actually got quite a few of these, don't we? Ooh, nice. I'm just gonna start throwing gold away. That's how rich I am now. Actually, that's a good point, Rax. I'll give you that. Still, that makes the list Mario Kart Wii, which makes sense. And New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which isn't super surprising. If we're being completely honest with ourselves, even though I would say that... even though Mario Galaxy is the superior game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii would have broader appeal. Not only because it's a 2D platform instead of 3D, but because Mario Galaxy had the physics. Which is admittedly a selling point in my mind, but you can see how that might push some audience members away from actually picking that one up. Hi, Kay. Hello, Raven King. Ooh, it's raining. Excellent. Okay, so hang on. I meant to do something and I spaced because I'm stupid. What do I need for this? Wood, copper, and fiber. Okay, hang on. Let's you know what? Brawl being that high doesn't really surprise me. Galaxy, Just Dance number 3. Just Dance doesn't surprise me either. I don't really understand why, but Just Dance has a large audience. So I need, what, 5 of these things? Yes. Which means I need 50 lumber. Which I have, thank God. 100 fiber, which I have. And copper ore, which I have. Okay, we're good. Okay, back we go. Yeah, I know, Black Vial, but it's also 2 million gold, and ironically, that's out of my price range. Given that I am buco rich and funding the entire town by myself, I'm still not that rich. Probably because I haven't actually gotten the ancient seed cycle going yet. For those of you wondering why I'm so relatively poor, it's because it's complete RNG on getting the ancient seed, and I didn't get it until like the beginning of year 3. So and it takes a while to get that going, because you start off with 1 seed. And I've been slowly turning that seed into more and more seeds. I'm up to like 40 at this point. And it's exponential. But I started that really late. So. Back again. Okay. Oh, and if it wasn't obvious from my tone, Rax, I wasn't trying to be like, you suck, when I was talking about the Hold'em maneuver. It's just, honestly, I should probably stop bringing it up, because I'm just so sick and tired of talking about it, you know? The main takeaway was that I was talking about a lot of writers in a lot of other settings, including Star Trek, where they give almost verbatim the argument Dean was giving, which is, well, I can't tell my story if I stick within your rules. And every time I hear that argument, I'm like, really? Like, you can't warp. So, let me use a specific example. In Star Trek, you can warp wherever, right? But every now and again, the fact that you can warp wherever would get in the way of the story they wanted to tell. They wanted to have the drama of it. So they made it occasionally, like 5 times across Star Trek, you can't warp when you're in system. When you're in the range of a solar entity. Which is stupid on every level, but let's ignore that for a second. Because they only did that because they couldn't tell their story without that. And it's just like... Or you could actually be a good writer. That's where I was coming from on that. This game does actually have a defined endpoint, although we're not going to reach it. Perfection is not happening. Among other things, we would need to fish everything. I could probably get everything in the game other than the fish. I'm not going to get all the fish. And that would be 90%. I think you're right, Rex. I just happened to notice, because I had Discord up because I was talking to Sis, and I happened to notice the thing, and so I beelined to it and then just responded to it really quick, because otherwise I might forget about it. Okay, so how do I do this? Place a flute block under each set of stones, and then tune them. Okay, I can do that. So, 5. Thank you. Yep, Mermaid Rock. Ariel's right there. Spinny fun. Swim me. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, what we just did was talking to her, if that counts. Now we gotta go win a game of darts. After 8. So we got a little bit of time there. So what's the most absurd thing in Star Trek? Threshold. I'm not actually joking. Of all the ridiculous things, Threshold bothers me the most. Hey, we found a slightly different form of dilithium, so it's going to allow us to accomplish an infinite amount of acceleration. Which also turns you into a salamander. And other stuff. It's this cake. It's this wonderful cake, and as you dig into the stupidity, there's more layers of stupidity. It's insanity. No matter what I tell you, I am going to do a bad job of explaining how stupid Threshold is. I honestly think it's the third worst thing in Star Trek I've ever seen. Anyways, okay, so that's done. Let's go look for artifact spots while we wait for it to be 8. Yeah, I think I heard a song by Weird Al Yankovic about that, Chaluto. That's funny. The first episode of Trek, in general, I ever saw was that one episode of Season 3. I talked about it in the Rumination. And I was just kind of like, well, this isn't my show. Listen, nobody listens to Weird Al Yankovic and his amazing, awesome music. Although, if you asked me to pick a favorite Weird Al song, I'd have to think about that. There's a bunch. It's okay, that's just the cybernetics taking hold, Alex. Just relax. Relax. Let the nanites do their job. It's all okay. I was actually leaning towards white and nerdy. I used to be able to perform that. From memory, I should clarify. I could probably perform it if I had the script in front of me. I've been browsing and inspecting. My comic books, I've been collecting. Etc., etc. See me mowing my front yard. And Key and Peele are there, which just blows my mind in the official thing. It's like the first thing I've ever seen Key and Peele in was a Weird Al song. Also Amish Paradise, while we're on the subject. And it's all about the Pentiums. It's all about the Pentiums is another good one. Let's see if we can get some archaeology going, shall we? This is how you archaeology, right? You just start digging stuff up with a pickaxe. Honk. Oh, nothing in here. What are all those fragments? Honk. That's a good question, Evo. Honestly, I'm very strongly leaning towards letting the vote for that open up either tonight or tomorrow. I mean, historically, there's two types of people, Raven King. There's people who actually have the foresight to see how things are going to go, and then there's people who don't. And remember how many people thought Star Wars was going to be a flop? Hint, it was a large number. Oh, those cost taro tubers. Interesting. Golden coconuts cost coconuts. Go figure. I can make banana pudding. Except I don't have the things for that. I guess my point, Alex, is... And this is my actual point. Some people tend to look at surface facts and say, oh, this is going to be a such and such. And they're almost always wrong because they're looking at surface facts. Generally speaking, most of the people who can accurately predict the future do so because they're actually thinking about it from a more in-depth and more complex perspective. There was a producer back at Lassilu, or whatever the name is, the stupid company at the time, what would eventually become Paramount. And when Star Trek was pitched to them, they thought about it and said, this is really going to hit a lot of people. And when all the other executives in the room said, no, it's not, they fought that down and basically championed for the idea of it actually getting another shot, which it wasn't going to get otherwise. So they got an unprecedented second pitch and a second episode to be a proof of concept, which I can't think of the frickin' name of for some reason right now. And now we have Star Trek. They were right. You're probably thinking, they probably used that for a long time as a thing like, hey, I was right. No, they died inside of a year later. For more horrific details, Pilot, thank you. See my Rumination series on TOS. Yeah, Doctor Who is another excellent example of that. Some people... So, for those of you who don't know, Doctor Who was originally intended to be a historical, which was a fairly common type of show at the BBC back in the day. AKA, here's just a show that's trying to recreate a form of history, right? And they added the sci-fi bent just as a little side thing, but the primary focus was, let's go to this period of history, hence the time travel. A few people back in the day were like, this is going to take off. We need to throw some weight behind this. Nah, it'll never... No, we need to make this happen. And Doctor Who is still going. Well, it's after 8. Let's see if we can win at darts. It is kind of weird to think about how many franchises are still going that have been around for a very long time. Where's all the pirates? Oh, it has to be a non-rainy day. And an even day. Oh my god. Simpsons is another interesting one. Because Simpsons got its shot in the arm thanks to being hosted on another show. I don't remember the name of her show right now. Forgive me. But it's another example of that, because if you remember the original Simpsons, like the original episodes, they sucked. The fact that anybody could look at that and say there's promise there is honestly impressive. And I mean, there was actually promise there. There was potential, and lo and behold, we got Simpsons. And then they strung it out way too long, and we got Simpsons, but that's neither here nor there. What's really funny is it took a lot for it to get killed in '89, too. Like, that wasn't some casual thing. That was, like, going down the opposite of quietly. Which is terrible grammar on my part, but you get my point. Bluebird mask. Wear to look just like your favorite island trader. Oh, I know, Rax. Have you seen... I'm sure you have. So this is more of a generic question for anybody in chat. Have you seen the interviews by... I can't remember his name. The guy who killed Doctor Who in the late 80s? He worked for that as hard as he possibly could for months, if not years. Pushed for it, and he is utterly unrepentant about it. He has been interviewed after Doctor Who came back, and he's still just like, it was just the dumbest show. They're all running around and sailing and getting into nonsense adventures. I thought it was drivel. And he makes fun of it as if it's... I don't even have a phrase here. He makes fun of it as if it's garbage. He treats it like it's garbage. And it's like, you... asshole. And yeah, Colin Baker was directly his fault. It's worth noting Colin Baker has occasionally shown that he can be a good doctor, which makes me think that he could have been a good doctor the whole time. Instead of that. Oh my God. I mean, fair. Yeah, congratulations. You are going to be remembered forever as the moron who dropped the ball. Yeah, it's funny. I say without hyperbole that Doctor Who is a legitimate British cultural treasure. I know I'm not the only person who thinks that way. Because there were severe one of the reasons that we have access to some of the lost episodes is because Britain for a while there was exporting Doctor Who so hard and so far because they were doing it as a part of trying to spread British culture. By the way, I'm not that big of a fan of Doctor Who. I still get pissed off at this, just from a historical, preservationist perspective. See you around, Mr. Red. Get some rest. Do what you gotta do. Whatever that may be. Okay, so I'm going to be honest here. I don't remember what his thing was in Doctor Who. Moffat. I know he wrote Blink. Everybody loves Blink. But I don't actually remember which guy he is that I'm thinking of. So I don't think I can give a specific defined answer to that. I'm sorry. I know he did Sherlock. Okay, he was Smith and Capaldi. Alright. So I haven't actually seen Capaldi. Smith is when I stopped watching Doctor Who regularly. Not because he was bad, but because I slowly started to realize that the show was drifting away from what I actually enjoyed about it. Which is fine. You know, everyone has their preferences and opinions, and it's not like I demand that every show, you know, curtails to me and my desires. Why are you wearing a... Okay, whatever. So, you know, no judgment. The 10th Doctor reminded me most of the Doctor Who I liked the best, which was the 2nd Doctor. The guy who portrayed himself as a playful idiot, but actually was very deadly serious and constantly on top of things. Playing this non-stop juggling game to try and keep up with all the crap that's going on around him. And Tennant did a good job of that. He did a good job of portraying the seriousness and the silliness. And in my opinion, Doctor Who needs to have both. Smith never sold me on that. Smith was very good at the silly, excellent at it. And Smith's run also had a lot of more the adventurous kind of feel, which just isn't my thing as much, you know. I will also admit that I know it's a contentious opinion, especially given some stuff that happened behind the scenes, but I do think Eccleston also hit that balancing point quite well. I mean, one of my favorite tidbits for the 9th Doctor in general is when he's... it's the Dalek episode. And he's ranting and raging at the thing. What good are you if you can't kill anyone, Dalek? That whole stint. That's true. Eccleston also got the just this once everybody wins scene. Everybody lives. Everybody lives. But anyways, my point overall here is that while I didn't enjoy Smith as much, I'm not saying he's bad. Not at all. He's not Colin Baker, you know what I mean? So that's what we call a low blow. But yes, Matt Smith was definitely the Pinkie Pie of the Doctors. And for those of you who know me, know that that's actually a compliment. And then every now and again, the Doctor is just kind of... Doctor Who, I should say, is just kind of... I know every show has its stinkers. That's just the nature of any long-form fiction. I mean, The Last Jedi... I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm poking fun. Let me stick with Star Trek. Star Trek has Threshold. I love Star Trek to death. But Star Trek has Threshold. And Doctor Who has the exact same thing, too. It's just, every now and again, it's like... What? Like, oh god, what's the The episode where there's like a fan club of the Doctor, except it's run by an alien that absorbs people into himself. Oh, God. Just what? And like it's already a dumb premise, which kind of hurts the whole thing. And then it gets worse. And it gets worse. Oh God, and then it gets so much worse. The Van Gogh episode was a good episode. Although I think a lot of the Van Gogh episode was carried by the actor playing Van Gogh. Yeah, I know, Van Gogh. But I don't feel like killing my throat every time I say it. That's another thing. Doctor Who has something similar to Star Trek in that some of its really great episodes tend to be bolstered up by the guest stars. A lot of the best episodes of both shows, in my opinion, tend to be really hold up when they just have a guest star that nails it. I'm debating something. I will say this. Of all of the Doctors I've seen, the ending, their last episode of, and I have seen all of them, Tennant's had the best. Tennant had the best send-off, in my opinion. It was also, I believe, the longest send-off. But, you know. So Pancakes, let's get off Doctor Who for just a second. Pancakes says, what are some must-have games for the Switch? Well, there's Stardew Valley, which I highly recommend. But let's move past that. It kind of depends on what kind of games you're into. But I can pretty effortlessly recommend Mario plus Rabbids, Super Mario Odyssey, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Fire Emblem Three Houses, and probably Mario Kart as well. But really? Oh, gosh darn it, more. And I'm too late. If you're into Pokemon, Pokemon Sword and Shield is an excellent Pokemon game. If you're into Smash or Fighters, it's a good Smash game. We've actually reviewed that game under the current system. There's also Arceus, which I can't recommend because I haven't played it. Well, now I'm stuck here. I wouldn't recommend Skyrim on the Switch. However, I would unironically recommend Doom Eternal if you have not played it on the Switch. There's several Monster Hunters. Those are time consumer games. I'm going to say that as nicely as I can because I'm not trying to sound negative. Those are very, very, very grindy games. Now, that's the point. You're supposed to spend an inordinate amount of time and then go do stuff. And if you're into that, can recommend. And if you're not, do not get City Skylines on the Switch. It's actually a bad port. Which I will say in total contrast to, of all things, Civilization 6. I know, but Civ 6 is surprisingly well ported to the Switch. It plays and runs quite smoothly. I highly recommend it. If you're into Civ 6 and playing it portably. I knew it, Evo. That would be an amusing little anecdote, but no, that's probably not where we should put the Imperial symbol of all places, if we were going to do that. gosh, what else? There's a lot of good games on the Switch. Like, a lot. It really kind of depends on what you're into. Dragon Quest XI is good. Can recommend. I mean, you could give him the symbol of the Zakarum if you want. That would be an amusing little tidbit. Like the idea that a barbarian's actually a follower of the Zakarum faith. Is he a follower? I have no plans to ever mention it. It would be a neat little tidbit, but not the kind of thing that I care about. Could also explain why he doesn't go along with the rest of the barbarians. That he literally follows a different faith than them. Really? You can get Roblox on the Switch? Don't do that. Don't do that. I only know that because my niece made me aware of that, and I had to give her a long speech about what microtransactions are. And how they work. And that's the world we live in. I have to explain to my 10-year-old niece how to avoid predatory microtransactions. I have no idea why people like Roblox. No offense to anybody who does. It's just not something I understand. Oh, don't even get me started on NFTs. I've already done an entire video on NFTs. I was linked on an economic subreddit describing NFTs. That's not a joke. That was a weird thing to discover. Oh, Jesus, Raven King. No, microtransactions can be paying for each blueberry individually. They can also be much, much worse than that. They could be paying for a seed packet, which contains a random number of seeds, which you don't actually know what the seeds are until you plant them and water them and grow them. By the way, they also charge you for the soil, the space to grow them, and the water. If you then pay for the water, the soil, the space, and the seed, you will eventually grow something, and that may be the blueberry you actually want. It also may not. That's microtransactions. Oh yeah, if you buy a large amount of seeds, the game cheats and gives you a larger chance to get the seeds you actually want. Like, changes the variables of the likelihood of getting certain types of seeds. And also, there's regular blueberries, but then there's blueberries that actually have flavor, and then there's blueberries that are actually good flavor. Those are, of course, 2-star and 3-star blueberries, respectively. Now, if you want to get a 3-star blueberry, what you're going to have to do is get a bunch of regular blueberries and turn those in. And that'll give you a package which you can then go ahead and go buy some more seeds, and another spot, and more water, and more soil, for another chance at growing those into a 2-star blueberry. You have to do that per blueberry. And also you need like 50 regulars for a 2-star blueberry, and 50 2-stars for a 3-star blueberry. You'll notice I'm not saying this with any amount of humor in my tone, because this isn't a joke. This is just how this is. This is just the nature of how this has become. Yeah, no hyperbole. I have unfortunately done research on the specifics of how certain predatory practices work as part of my job. It's disgusting. When they say that they have hired psychologists in order to study human psychology, in order to be as manipulative as possible, I believe them. No, Evo, just pick whichever one you think looks best for you. I trust your aesthetic choices. Except when coming to ball. That's just so awful. No, I figured it out, though. I figured it out. The reason I don't like your ball image is because he just looks like me. Are you trying to tell me something here, Evo? Is that what this is? Wait, we're fighting Captain Marvel? Oh my god. Alright, let me get Thanos on the line. Hey. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. No, don't worry. I'm holding it by the middle of the phone. Okay. So, I need you to snap. You heard me. No, I know it doesn't sound all that intimidating. What else do you want to call it? You know the people are going to make fun of you if you call it the decimation because it's technically inaccurate. No, I'm not saying... I swear to God, you get rid of 90% of people, we're going to have a problem. Okay. Thank you. That guy. I do like donuts. Even consolation donuts. So, Darkrai mentions microtransactions that use FOMO too, right? Let's go back to the blueberry thing. Blueberries are only available during this event, after which they're going away. You cannot get blueberries after we're done with this event. We'll move on to the next fruit, where you have to start all over from scratch. Also, we're probably going to have a sale, probably in the last week. We'll very carefully calculate it, so that you mathematically do not have the possibility of getting a 3-star blueberry in the time that you have left when the sale goes live. Two spines in a row. I guess I see where Clint's been hanging out. Three spines in a row. Not really, RJ. Just kinda. Predatory practices, as I define it, it's twofold. The first is psychological. It's when they're trying to do everything within their power to convince you that it's a good idea to buy this, that you will enjoy the experience and result of buying something. Doesn't matter how or why. Doesn't matter what the product is. Now, I should probably mention, in most cases, predatory practices are a lie. In other words, you will enjoy buying some PNGs for this card game, and they'll be slightly more scantily clad than the other ones. And you get no real actual entertainment or enjoyment out of that, therefore, lie. So, scam. The second type of what I call predatory practices is psychological. It's when they do everything in their power to try and convince you to pay more than you actually want to in order to get what you want. I know that sounds very basic and generic, but all the crap I said earlier, all of which are real examples, by the way, is all done in order to try to get you to spend more money, not to get you to spend money. Microtransactions, if there was a game that had microtransactions that were worth a damn, people would just buy them, and that would be the end of the circumstance. What has been done over the last 15 years is a systemic amount of increasing violation of human rights, as bluntly as I could possibly put that. Because what they're doing is they're preying on all kinds of ignorance, or fear, or desires, or literal chemical hits within the brain in order to try and convince people to spend more money, not to convince people to spend money. Trying to convince people to spend money on your product, that's marketing. Trying to scam people out of more money, that's predatory practices. And there's obviously a gradient there, too. Because I've seen some really scummy crap over the years. And then there's some people who are just do really, really basic level stuff. Like, who was it? Russ just mentioned in chat. One of the most common techniques that is used, and it's so common as to be banal at this point, is, well, the things you can buy cost 5, but we sell them in packs of some multiple of 6, so like 18. So, if you want 4, which is necessary to upgrade, you need to buy 2 packs. Because you have to buy 36 in order to get the 20 that you need. Which is really, really, really basic level, but it's something that almost everybody does at this point. Now, I'm not saying that's acceptable, I'm just saying that's low tier. Some companies out there go much worse than that. Good thing, we'll just know. Overall good thing. And there's other stuff that people tend to not even talk about. Here's one of my personal favorite examples of that. So let's say that... a lot of companies do this, by the way. Let's say that there's a company out there, and they've got their mobile game. And they're like, hey, buy our stuff. But we want you to spend like $10 on this. Now, what people tend to do is if they pull up the thing, and they're playing the game for the first time, this is important, playing the game for the first time, when you do your first purchase, there legally has to be an extra layer of, are you sure you want to purchase this? Now, some of you probably have never even noticed this, but that extra layer is almost always there just at the first purchase, not the second or the third or the 18th or the 45th. The first one. Why is this relevant? Because a huge number of companies will make sure that the thing that they push the hardest is the cheapest. Because what that means is you will have then spent $1 on the game, and when you pull up that thing and that extra little prompt shows up, you're like, yeah, sure, I'll pay $1. Why not? And that way, later on, when it pops up saying, do you want to spend $20 or $100 on this, it doesn't actually pop up. There's no pop-up. You just spend the money. There's no extra check. There's no extra moment of pausing to think about, do I really want to do this transaction? Instead, it just goes through. Because after all, now it's a registered, like now it's a safe, or whatever they actually call that, transaction that they don't have to double-check. There's all kinds of crap. There are all kinds of crap these companies do. That's true, Chester Common. Yeah, like I said, that's another fairly common thing that people tend to not even notice is happening. Meanwhile, Savacom, who secretly works for all these evil companies, and is in fact the originator of predatory practices, is like, how do I spin this so it sounds like a good thing? We have surprise mechanics, which, for those of you who don't remember, is a real thing, a real representative of a real company actually said in order to try and justify this crap. We don't like to call... Ugh. Yep, an EA executive. I've seen the video of that. I've watched that whole video to make sure I didn't get anything out of context. That woman said that to a frickin' parliamentary committee. And yeah, that was when loot boxes were the things that everyone's like, you know, I knew this was going to happen. I even said this on camera. We're already at the point where I wish we were back at the loot boxes. Because loot boxes were bad, but they're not as bad as some of this nonsense. I knew it would get worse. And here we are. Yeah, I've been debating doing that, Rose. Since I'm pretty sure I need something from a gold coconut at this point. There's surprise mechanics, Savaka. Loot boxes have kind of died out because there was an enormous amount of public outcry about that. As the saying goes, public outcry doesn't always stop companies from doing bullcrap. But there's like a tipping point, right? There's a critical mass point at which the companies will actually be like, okay, we've pushed too far. Let's pull it back a little bit. And loot boxes pushed past that point. Probably the moment they actually had to send an EA representative to talk in front of a goddamn parliamentary committee. Excuse my language, but once you've been called in front of governmental agencies, you've probably pushed too far. So yeah, companies pulled back a lot on loot boxes. What have they been replaced with? Do you remember my whole blueberry speech earlier, Evo? Because that's what they've been replaced with. Hey, golden coconuts. Nice. What's the other thing I need golden coconuts for? Because I already got the walnut out of one. I don't know what the other thing I needed them for was. Can I trade them for something? I'm going to go check if I can trade them for something. Bye, Mr. Bird. Also, right. Yep, you're absolutely right. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think the biggest reason why companies continue to try and push the envelope more and more, other than just basic plain old greed, is because of the desire to make growth, not make money. Something I've talked about many, many times. I've started running a few casual numbers. I shouldn't even say that. It doesn't matter. It's Friday. It's Friday. I am fairly certain, although I do not have hard evidence, nor will I claim to, that if companies tried to make money, they would be fine and they would do fine. Like, they would still be able to push out their products and keep their people employed. and function as a company. But companies do not want to make money, they want to make growth. Yeah, the line needs to go up. Exactly. I took... What was it, like 6 years ago, I think was my first lore week when I talked about what I at the time referred to as the problem of the quarterly report. And I don't know if you know this, but every time I put forth an idea or a theory or something like that out into the world, especially about something negative, there's actually a part of me that thinks, God, I hope I'm wrong about this. And I hope that, you know, I am proven wrong about this. And I rarely am. I mean, this ties into something else, so I know this is going to be a little polemic. I don't mind the concept of rich people. Some people think I'm anti-rich people. I'm actually not. I'm anti-evil, I'm anti-greed, and I'm anti-stupid. And you can probably already see where I'm going with that. Because someone having more money than me doesn't particularly bother me. The problem is everything else associated with it. Not just the gap, but the size of the gap. And the movement of the gap. And the things that are being done to widen the gap. My rent goes up every year. My income doesn't. No offense, I'm not e-begging, I'm just saying, like, that was normal for me back in the day. Like, I was actually talking to my dentist about this just a couple weeks ago. I remember back at my IT job, I would get a regular, you know, living expense raise of $1/4 an hour. And that sounds like a big raise, and it's not. It literally wasn't even keeping up with basic increase in price of living. So I was quite literally, from a sheer mathematical perspective, making less money over time. Yeah, just make sure I actually check that. So anyways, vote for me. If you don't, I'm going to take over anyways. But, you know, it'd be nice if I don't actually have to, you know, take over against people's wills. You know what I mean? Like, if you fight me on this, that's going to suck, you know? Because then I have to allocate troops. I have to allocate ships. Oh, my God, it's a whole thing. I'm going to have to send Evo to come break your legs. I mean, do you want that to happen? Because I don't want that to happen. I don't think even she wants that to happen. No, there's a reason I never went into politics, Larian. As I have gotten older and thought about it from a more complex perspective, I will admit that there's actually a chance that I could improve a city or a county or a district in some small way, but actually improving the system or making the world a better place? No. That's off the table. I mean, you don't have to vote for me, like I said. I'm just taking over either way. Sean really didn't like Mass Effect 2. We talked about that during the Mass Effect 2 run. And Mass Effect 2 is certainly a flawed game. It's still the third highest rated game I've ever reviewed, but it certainly has its flaws. Yeah, no kidding, RJ. See, I can't say Mass Effect 2 is my favorite sci-fi game ever, because all three of my top 3 games are science fiction. Metroid Dread, Portal 2, and Mass Effect 2. That's weird to think about, actually, when I line that up that way. Alright, come on, give me my skull. Give me my skull. Can I get some drum rolls in chat for some good luck here? Pillars of Snow secretly just hates all games I love. That's what it is. It's okay. I accept it, Pillars of Snow. I knew. I always knew. And that's all Iridium gear. Alright. This is it. I'm gonna believe it. Actually, this isn't it. This is unrelated. We're doing this for the hell of it. Ancient Seed. That's funny. Okay, here we go. So, for real. Iridium. That sucks. That really sucks. And that turbo sucks. 3 things of total garbage. Great. I'm going to throw these in the trash. Because that's what they are. Nah, it's fine, Russ. I think based on the real life time and the fact that I do have some paperwork to do before my 3rd stream today, I think we're going to go ahead and call it. We didn't get all the coconuts, but that's okay. We weren't going to anyways. Or not coconuts, the walnuts. And we've seen a decent chunk of the new area. We haven't accessed keys thing because that requires stuff that's not happening. We could just kind of start wasting time until the crops grow, but honestly, I'm comfortable with calling it here. So, this has been Stardew Valley. We're going to do an audit in just a moment, as soon as I get into position. Yeah, the Long Dark is several days overdue at this point. So, what do I think of the volcano? I think it's better designed than the Skull Cavern. It's clear that he took some of the lessons of the Skull Cavern to heart, and that's good. But I think the Forge. I think the Forge is a great idea, terribly implemented. I've given it a negative for the same reason I gave Final Fantasy VII a negative. I think it's a lot of cool stuff that unlocks way too late for it to mean anything. By the time you have this cool stuff to play around with, you're done with the game. And there's really not a lot of content in post-game, so that's kind of it. Look, I know there's a video game called The Long Dark. I was calling it The Long Dark before that game came out, okay? I get precedence here. Please don't think that. Hang on, let me double check that. The Long Dark. Let's look this up. Oh yeah, that came out 2014. I way predate that. So, okay. Ahem. So, we're going into the Long Dark of Moria. Which, okay, there you go. You can say Lord of the Rings beat me to that. I feel that there's some cool ideas on this island, and it gives me hope for what we're eventually going to get from Haunted Chocolatier. Because I legitimately feel like it's better designed than several other aspects of the game. So let's jot out a couple of additional positives for this. And give me a moment to actually audit this sucker and give us our scores. Oh, speaking of which, if you haven't made a guess in the guessing game, do it now, because I'm chopping it off now. I'll update the HUD, although I think it's actually mostly up to date. Salmon and sushi, you're just getting spoiled now. Also, do me a favor, don't leave just yet. I think I'm going to go ahead and open up voting, maybe. I'll think about it. It depends on how long it takes me to set it up. But I think we're probably going to open up voting for the Game of the Year thing. So I can get you a link on that. But first, I got to do some math. My favorite thing to do. And I'm going to go and chop down the guessing game right now. I usually close down the guessing game right at the end, RJ. Like, for example, right now, because it is currently closed. Part of the spirit of the guessing game is for you to guess, you know, well before that, because it's just kind of what do you think this game should score as. But you don't have to do that. That's okay. We're chill here. I should do that so I don't just end up at the night. Hello, Valerian. Let's see here. Yeah, it's just for fun. It doesn't really matter. It's just a little fun game that we do. Did I say hi to Valerian? Hi, Valerian. In case I didn't. So, okay. A lot of people seem to be thinking I'm playing a video game called The Long Dark. I'm not. Let's be very, very clear about that. That game's not even on the list. It's not funded. I never even heard of it until someone mentioned it like 3 days ago. The Long Dark is me pausing streaming to go get work done. I'm going through Moria and getting a lot of crap done while not streaming. That's The Long Dark. We've been calling it that for years. I'm not going to change the name. Yeah, that Balrog is busy, let me tell you. How long is it usually? There is no average. How long will it take this time? I have no idea. I will continue to do it until I am done. That's how it works. Yeah, it's done when it's done. No, Persona 5 beats the pants out of this game, Blade Travel. In fact, to give you a bit of perspective, hang on, let me pull up the actual sheet here. Just for fun. Give me a sec. So, let's see here. Mass Effect 3 was almost longer than this game. Heroes of Might and Magic 5 was substantially longer than this game. Wasteland 3 was longer than this game. Bloodborne was longer than this game. Elden Ring was longer than this game. Cyberpunk was longer than this game. Oblivion was longer than this game. Pokemon Shield was longer than this game. Divinity Original Sin 2 was also longer than this game. All of those are just within the current review system. I'm not counting the older games. So, yeah, no, this isn't even, like, in the top 20. Or maybe top 15. Yeah, it probably felt longer because we're just chilling most of the time. And we did spin our wheels for 3 days. I don't think that map's good enough to qualify as a wash. What do you guys think? It is indicative, and your icon shows where you are at any given point in time. It's not super useful. It's not super informative. But it is, here's where all the stuff is. So I think that feels like a wash to me. I tend to remember the map more when I'm playing a modded version of the game, where they add functionality to the map, which makes it much more useful. But yeah, I tend to ignore the map because there's no reason to look at it once you just know where everything is. It's there mostly for people who don't. How do we feel about the sound design of the game? Like, for example, what's playing right now. Okay, fine. About what's playing right now. Is that better? I think I could qualify one positive, because we've heard it throughout the whole game. There's rather large swaths where the atmospheric sound kind of carries it. Sound didn't update. Hang on. Sound still didn't update. Alright, hang on. We're still hearing the island, no matter where we go. There we go. Okay. Damn, that's actually scoring better than I thought it would. And that's funny, because we gave a decent chunk of negatives. So let's do some math. That's plus 21 to story, plus 31 to gameplay. Obviously, we're going to have a pretty low density. Variance might be good. Okay. So, for the highlight reel. Plus 21 to story. That is a density of 0.41 story positives per hour, which is honestly more than I thought there would be. And a ratio of 95.65%, which is really good. There's not a lot of story here, but what story there is good, and there's very little story that's bad. This leads us immediately into the gameplay. Net gameplay score of 31, plus 31 to gameplay. That is 0.61 gameplay per hour. Much better ratio, or sorry, much better density. However, the ratio is 75.41%. We had a lot more complaints on the gameplay axis. This leaves us with a golden number of... Drumroll, please. Now, see, if I don't get a drum roll. Okay, there we go. 139.71. Which, yeah, that sounds about right, honestly. That is a very good game. And this is a very good game. Let me pause to see who won really quick, because I've discovered in editing it's better to do the win than my final thoughts. So it looks like Dr. Winter was quite close. And it looks like Dr. Winter wins it. So let me go ahead and jot that down for something. I lost it. Darkest Dungeon. There it is. I see it. I see it. Yeah, by point, I know Wenlock. I noticed that. For those of you wondering, Wenlock only guessed 135, and Dr. Winter guessed 135.57. Final thoughts. What I find most interesting about this game is that you can play it completely chill, which I have already done. I played that way on the Switch. Or you can play it completely managey, which is what we did this time for the most part. And I found it equally enjoyable in both methods, which is good. The late game falls apart really hard, which makes sense based on what we talked about. And the early game is a little bit problematic by virtue of how boring it can be. But the mid-game is where the game really shines. When you've got your economics going, you've got your resource chain going, you've got a steady income going, and you're starting to try and do everything at the same time. And you're either just chilling, because you're chilling, or you're trying to be as efficient as possible and progressing through the various mechanisms that are throughout the game. And that's the best part of the game for me right there. And I had a lot of fun at that point in time. It was very stressful, but in a good way. I was actually engaged, and I found myself absolutely digging into it. So, if by some miracle you're someone who is on the fence about buying this game, I absolutely recommend it. However, it's very easy to understand why this wouldn't be for everyone, because this is, at its core, a management sim. That's why we're putting that in that particular genre when it comes to classification. This is all about managing your time, your resources. Sorry, it's all about managing your resources, which is your time, your gold, your budget, whether or not you've got access to which tools or which abilities or how far you've gotten into them. There's all kinds of things that you're constantly trying to juggle in order to optimize, and I love that. I'm probably never going to actually go for perfection because of the fishing thing. But it is interesting that there is a definitive end of the game at this point. And it makes sense. It feels like the kind of thing he probably wanted in the game at launch, but as we already talked about, couldn't actually do. I do hope everyone has enjoyed this elongated run. Obviously, the next thing we're doing is the Long Dark. So, for those of you on the highlight reel, I say... For those of you not on the highlight reel, let me do something here really quick. You can leave if you want to. I won't keep you. But let me do something here. We should do a guessing game for how long the Long Dark takes. Oh no, it would not surprise me at all if this game was very coffee to a lot of people. No surprise, no judgment. Okay. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Hang on, right back. No, put it in the guessing sheet. Put it in the guessing sheet. How long do you think it's going to be? I'll keep track. It is assuredly going to be longer than a week. If I finish all the work I need to get done in a week, then I have mastered time travel. Yeah, what's funny is it's so easy to essentially permanently lose time. I know some people who will actually restart days if they are not as efficient as they possibly can be. That's nice. Okay. Hello, Dr. Winter. You won. Congratulations. Do a little cleanup while I'm thinking about it. Yep, you guessed 135, and it was 139. You guessed 135.57. That's the important part. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 26. You let me do 26? You do not. Okay. Let's do this then. There will be a Saturday stream, of course. One, two, three, four, five, six. See you around, Russ. 18. Okay, this is going to take me a while to enter, it looks like. I was hoping to get this all lined up right now on stream so people can start voting for the Game of the Year thing. Looks like it's going to take me a minute. So, I will go ahead and send out links on Discord and I suppose on Twitter for voting, as well as I will do a post on the VOD channel specifically, which will have a link to being able to vote for it. Otherwise, if you somehow do not have access to everything I just mentioned, then it sucks to be you, because what do you want from me? All of those should be sufficient. But I will, it'll be 3 separate votes. There will be 10, I can only do 10 categories per ballot, okay? We've got like 26 categories. So there'll be 10, and then 10, and then 6, okay? It's going to be a ranked choice system. I don't know exactly how it's going to look on your end, because I can't know that until I've built it. But the idea is you should vote. So let's say you're voting for Game of the Year. Well, the point of a ranked choice system is you pick your favorite Game of the Year. Don't think strategically. Don't think which game is likely to win. Don't consider any of that. Just vote for your Game of the Year. Then, if you want to, you could pick a second game. In case, you know, like, what's your second favorite Game of the Year? And then third, and then fourth, and then fifth. And you can do however many of that you want to, up to the entire list if you so desire. What's going to happen then is people will vote for, you know, your Game of the Year. And once the votes are all tallied, we'll see who actually wins, and there will be some adjustments and some behind-the-scenes paperwork. And the long and the short of it is, everyone's votes will be tallied, and then everyone's choices will be tallied, and the vote will be passed down until... I'm explaining this terribly. Don't worry about it. Just vote for your favorites, and don't vote strategically. That's the really important part. I'll mention that in the video I'll be putting live on the archives channel as well. And, you know, just in the absolutely ridiculously rare chance that you don't know what the archives channel is, even though that's extremely unlikely, I have no idea, Mike Romano. And I never will. Until it's done. But on the extremely unlikely chance...
Hello there.
Shut up! That you don't know what my channel is. Here you go. This is the archives channel. It's where all the VODs go. I don't know, Mike. Come on. I have no way of knowing. Now, before I chop off, thank you, Trakagi. Trakagi? Oh, God, I always screw that up. Thank you very, very much. Always appreciate. And I will, of course, jot that down for a bunch of stuff. Hang on, so let's see. So we've got Eastward, Kirby 64, Zelda Block, and that's it. So, I'll leave those up. Thankfully, I already own Kirby 64. It's right there. Otherwise, I'd probably say no to that. Eastward. So I'll see some of you in about an hour and a half over on Guido's channel. We are going to be playing D&D tonight. I'll see some of you Saturday. We'll be starting the streaminations of Justified there. I'll see everyone who isn't going to be present for either of those two things whenever I'm done.